We don't have new talks planned with the Canadians. We're moving forward with measures that respond to Canadian retaliation. Remember, as President Trump has introduced a trade policy to reshore American production and protect American jobs, two countries have retaliated against the United States, the People's Republic of China and Canada.
And Canada does a lot of business with China.
They do, and they continue to retaliate. And after a year of that retaliation, we've said enough, and so we've taken countermeasures. Our interest is in protecting American workers and protecting American supply chain. That path, really to cut the tariffs on them, on steel, on tariff autos, even lumber, things that are sensitive for them. And they've always had the best deal, and they still would have an even better deal, but they didn't want that.
Liar. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? That is Jamieson Greer, the U.S. Trade Representative, making the case that we're the bad guys here, right? If we hadn't retaliated, everything would be perfect. David Heurtel is standing by. Of course, he is former Quebec Liberal cabinet minister and now political analyst. And our feature brought to you by Guaranteed Industries. Got to keep you nice and cool through the rest of the summer. We're not done quite yet. Don't forget Can Air Systems as well. They are the specialists, been serving Montrealers since 1957, guaranteedindustries.com. So, David, it's been a busy weekend. You're obviously aware of what's going on. You heard Jamieson Greer that just now. I don't want to ask a dumb question like who we supposed to believe here, but I thought the Prime Minister made a pretty compelling case in his speech on Saturday morning to what was really happening.
He really did. And what we're getting in terms of information since Saturday is reinforcing the Prime Minister's position. You had this clip from Jamieson Greer. I don't know if you saw. I watched an interview that he gave on CNBC this morning, and the first questions was basically a very open-ended question about how do we get here. And Greer was saying, well, this all began, and he's saying, let me take you back to this, how all of this began with Canada, when Canada started banning our alcohol and imposing tariffs on our cars. For him, that's how the whole trade conflict started. Forgetting, of course, that all of this began with the first round of Trump tariffs, and this was our retaliation to those Trump tariffs. He then went on to say another complete lie, saying that, well, for this round of negotiations, Canada contacted us. And he was saying it just matter of fact, well, one day our phone rang and Canada said, well, let's talk. Again, forgetting that all this began when Trump announced these new tariffs, these new incredibly harsh tariffs that have now come into force. That started this round of negotiation. So this is all built on lies. But to go further on the point that is confirming Canada's position, that is confirming the province's position, Christine Fréchette, Doug Ford, BC, they're all lining up in support of Prime Minister Carney's position. Canadians and Quebecers, you mentioned it several times, Quebec leading the way, Quebecers leading the way in terms of massive support. Even Alberta is at 67% support. Think about that.
Wow.
The fact that in the U.S., this is not playing well. When you have a Republican senator like Susan Collins of Maine, who has been a staunch ally of Donald Trump's, who is facing a very difficult re-election campaign this fall in Maine, she comes out right away saying, this is going to hurt our people. The ensuing inflation is going to make affordability, which is already a key issue in the U.S., even a bigger issue. Add to that the Wall Street Journal saying very clearly this is the dumbest trade war the U.S. has ever generated. This is the Wall Street Journal we're talking about. This is a Republican paper. This is the finance sector of the United States, and saying this is crazy. And you can add all these very important governors in key states. Now, there are Democrats, but still, when you have the governors of Virginia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, which are all key battleground states this fall for the midterms, saying you are going to kill us. This is a tax on Americans. And the economy, the numbers from the U.S. have shown it. So from the American side, you're already seeing beyond the spin and the bluster from the president and Jameson Greer and Howard Lutnick, who, by the way, there was another article in Politico saying that even during the negotiation, both of them couldn't even agree on common positions when they were talking to Canada. So how crazy is that? So, when the Prime Minister said this was written in pencil, we now know there was a clause saying, you know what? Forget what's written. The president can change the deal anytime he wants.
Do you think he was blindsided, David? Speaking of Donald Trump, because I remember on Friday, right, his post was, hey, we have a deal.
Yeah.
He went out of his way, capital letters, we have a deal, and we assumed at that point it was simply, as we said, in a matter of dotting I's and crossing T's. Did he get, or does he always know, do you think, what's going on? Or did someone bring this up and hope they could sneak it through and then go to him and say, hey, look what else we got?
I think he doesn't follow very closely anything. I think he's completely ignorant on all the details of anything that's going on. But just there's so many examples in his presidency where he said one thing and it didn't bear out. Just take with the conflict with Iran. How many times remember, Iran was supposed to be a 4-week thing.
Yeah.
And how many deals were there in place? How many times this was all done, all wrapped up? We forget the number of times now. There have been so many. So I think, first of all, it's pure ignorance. Two, it's just bullying. He just feels that people will just bow down. Canada does not bow down. That's not what we'll do. And the reaction right now is very clear. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. But also, there is a lot of backlash in the U.S. Donald Trump's popularity numbers are at their lowest. The economic numbers are not good. A disaster is impending right now. The House, we knew the House for the midterms was, pretty much safely in the Democrats' column, although the Dems always find a way to screw things up. But the new thing now is that even the Senate is in place. So imagine if after the midterms, you have both the Senate and the House that are no longer Republican. This is going to cause a lot of problems for the president, and it's going to help Canada. So I'm just thinking that, that's part of the equation here for Mark Carney. But also, look, the announcement today being so dynamic with Christine Fréchette, another multi-billion-dollar investment for icebreakers, and showing that, you know what, we're going to invest in our own resources, in our own people, in our own products. We're going to diversify our economy. It's going to take time. It won't be easy. But it's like somewhat, a bit like COVID. It's like, okay, we've been swamped with this thing that we don't control. Let's, roll up our sleeves and find ways to get through it. And in a trade war like this, it's not about winning the trade war. It's like, and again, I'm going on the military side of things, but look what Ukraine has done with Russia and look what Iran has done with the U.S. It's not about winning the war. It's about showing that you're not going to lose it and showing that you're going to be resilient and you're going to keep fighting. That's how you actually end up winning.
It's interesting you brought up the pandemic. I said early in the show today, I saw that press conference held by Christine Fréchette, which was called pretty quickly, I think, right? You had her, Chris Skeet, Eric Girard, the finance minister, Bernard, all of them were at the table. I thought, this is a page out of the pandemic playbook from Mon Oncle Francois.
Absolutely. And that's why Fréchette now has the initiative. Remember last week, she had her big announcement with Carney again in Newfoundland and Labrador about Churchill Falls. And the next day, the attention, everything shifted to Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon and his referendum declaration. So the initiative was with Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon. And he had, the front runners, momentum. And he kind of controlled the election campaign agenda. Now, this is one of the fascinating shifts here with this bombshell of a situation, is that now Christine Fréchette has the ball.
Yeah.
She has the initiative. Yeah. And the ballot question has now become who can best weather this storm, just like it was during the federal campaign in the spring of 2025. And so the all four opposition parties are put in a reactive position. Fréchette, again with this announcement with the icebreakers in the Davie shipyards, is like, wow, okay, we're in action, we're reacting, we're creating jobs, we're spending money, we're going to weather this, we're going to fight this. and it's putting all the opposition parties, including Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, on the defensive here.
Yeah, so with respect, you heard my theory, David, with respect to Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon. Instead of saying he's going to wait for Donald Trump to be out of office, then he'll wait for Mark Carney to no longer be prime minister.
Yeah, well, that could be a while if you look at these numbers. Now, obviously, they won't last forever. But the thing is the problem with Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon and Duham and Milliard, first of all their election campaign plans were put in the bin over the weekend.
Yeah.
They've had to rewrite everything. Look, just giving you an example, on Sunday on social media, Charles Milliard just went casually talking about education. Nobody cares right now about education, quite frankly. Is it important? Sure, but that's not the topic.
Right.
So now the focus is all going to be on this issue. And the problem for all the parties, but particularly for Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, first of all, he spent the last year talking about his blue book and independence while not talking about the economy. He doesn't have a strong economic team. You can't really point to people that are real solid, known heavyweights in economy, in finances, that have dealt with international trade. He just doesn't have the horses right now in his candidate pool. And the other thing is the risk here is falling yet again into a Pierre Poilievre trap, because let's remember, one of the many, many mistakes Pierre Poilievre did last year was not sounding like he was in the fight, that he wasn't, rallying around, which he has changed. His tone over the weekend is completely different than the tone he used during the federal election campaign last year, where it was much more defiant, much more combative, and not seemingly understanding that he had to rally around the effort. He could criticize, but he had to seem to be going in the direction of elbows up. And so that's a big problem with Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon right now, but this completely transformed his campaign.
Going to be really interesting next poll we get, right? Provincial poll, we shall see.
Absolutely.
David, I thank you. Good talking to you. We'll chat again next week.
Great to talk to you.
Care.
Have a great week.
You too.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all. Bryan Adams Radio. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.